The world was tilted 90 degrees. Kaelen hung from a leather strap in the overturned train car, the blood rushing to his head. Below him, which was now the side wall, the metal crumpled inward, groaning under the strain of the bridge's precarious angle. Through the shattered window, he could see the abyss. It wasn't black. It was a churning cauldron of violet fog, lit from within by arcs of silent lightning. The train car shifted, sliding another inch toward the drop. "Don't move," Kaelen rasped, swinging slowly to find a foothold on a luggage rack. "If we shift the weight, we fall." Elara was huddled on the wall-turned floor, holding Tibbs. Kara was braced against the ceiling, her obsidian claws dug into the metal. They were suspended over hell in a tin can. "We have to climb out the top," Kaelen whispered. The top was the side door, now a hatch in the ceiling. He unhooked himself, dropping lightly onto the luggage rack. The car creaked ominously. A bolt sheared off with a sound like a gunshot, pinging around the cabin. Kaelen reached up, straining to reach the latch. It was jammed. He drew his dagger, the star-steel blade. He jammed it into the gap and levered it. "Kara," he grunted, "I need a push." The stone singer dropped down beside him. She placed her black hands on his boots. "Up," she commanded. She heaved him upward. Kaelen grabbed the latch with both hands and kicked the door. It shrieked and flew open, revealing the dark cavern roof above. Kaelen pulled himself up through the hatch and scrambled onto the side of the train car. The view was vertiginous. The car was teetering on the edge of a shattered section of the obsidian bridge. The rails were twisted like licorice. He reached down. "Hand me Tibbs." Kara passed the goblin up. Tibbs looked at the drop and giggled. "Big hole," he noted. Kaelen strapped him to his back. Then Elara. Then Kara climbed out, her weight shifting the car significantly. As soon as her boots hit the bridge, the train car groaned. The metal coupling snapped. The car slid backward, tilting over the edge, and fell silently into the violet fog. They watched it disappear. No sound of impact, just swallowed. They stood on the bridge, the wind from the abyss tugging at their cloaks. The path ahead was blocked by the debris of the silver night they had impacted. The armor lay in a heap, crushed but not empty. The violet fire that had animated it was leaking out, pooling on the ground like oil. "Don't touch it," Kara warned. "It is concentrated malice." Elara stepped closer, drawn to it. The aperture on her chest whirred. "It's not malice," she whispered. "It's memory. It remembers being a man." She looked at the chasm. "This isn't just a pit, it's a factory. They are taking the souls trapped in the silence and forging them." "We need to move," Kaelen said, pulling Elara away. "The crash will draw attention." They climbed over the wreckage. The bridge extended for another mile, disappearing into the dark. But as they walked, the bridge began to change. The stone was replaced by metal grates. Pipes ran along the handrails, hissing with steam. They were entering an industrial zone, the Foundry. Below them, in the fog, shapes began to emerge. Massive, floating platforms. Chains the size of rivers hanging from the ceiling, and the sound, a rhythmic metallic clang that shook the teeth. "The world is being remade," Kaelen thought, "and we are the scrap metal." A screech echoed from the darkness ahead. Then another. Wing beats. "Sky stalkers," Kara hissed, raising her staff. "They guard the airspace." Kaelen looked for cover. There was none. They were exposed on a narrow strip of metal. "We can't fight a flock," Kaelen said. He looked over the side. 20 feet below the bridge, a maintenance catwalk ran parallel to a massive pipe. "Down there!" He didn't wait. He vaulted the rail, landing hard on the grating below. "Jump!" Elara hesitated. Kaelen held out his arms. "I caught you once. I'll catch you again!" She jumped. They huddled under the shadow of the main bridge as the flock of sky stalkers screamed overhead. The creatures were like bats made of razor wire and smoke. They circled the train wreck, screeching in frustration, then moved on. Kaelen exhaled. That was close. He looked at the catwalk. It led toward a massive structure suspended in the center of the cavern, a hanging fortress of brass and black iron. "The central hub," Kara said. "The elevator to the surface will be there. The ancients built this place to mine the Earth's core. The silence has repurposed it." They moved along the catwalk. The heat rose. The pipe next to them was scalding hot, vibrating with the flow of some liquid. Tibbs tapped it. "Soup?" he asked. "Magma," Kara corrected. They are drawing heat from the mantle to power the conversion. Kaelen looked at the goblin. Tibbs was smiling, but his eyes were empty. The spark was gone. Kaelen felt a pang of guilt sharp enough to cut. He adjusted the straps, holding the goblin. "Almost there, buddy. We're going for a ride." The catwalk ended at a bulkhead door. It was sealed with a rotating wheel lock, rusted shut. Kaelen strained against it, his veins popping, but it wouldn't budge. "Let me," Kara said. She didn't use strength. She placed her hand on the metal and sang a low, grinding note. The rust vibrated. It turned to dust. The wheel spun freely. Kaelen pushed the door open. They entered a ventilation chamber. Huge fans, 50 feet across, spun slowly, chopping the violet fog. The draft was strong enough to pull a man in. "We have to cross the turbine blades," Kaelen yelled over the wind. "While they're moving," Elara shouted back. "They're slow," Kaelen lied. They weren't that slow. He timed the rhythm. Whoosh, gap, whoosh, gap. Go! He grabbed Elara's hand and ran. They sprinted across the mesh walkway that bisected the fan shaft. The wind threatened to blow them off into the blades. Below, the blades sliced the air with the force of guillotine. It was a run through a meat grinder. They made it to the other side, collapsing against the wall. Tibbs was laughing. "Spinny," he cheered. Kaelen checked Elara. She was pale. The chest plate was dim. "You need to recharge," he said. "Not here," she gasped. "The energy here, it's tainted. If I drink it, I might turn." Kaelen nodded. He understood. The silence wasn't just void, it was a corruption. To feed on it was to become it. They pushed on, entering a corridor lined with glass observation windows. Kaelen looked through the glass. What he saw stopped his heart. The room below was the Foundry floor. Conveyor belts moved thousands of stone statues, the victims from Oak Haven, from the caravans, from the villages. They were being moved under massive hydraulic presses. The presses didn't crush them. They injected them. Violet liquid was pumped into the stone, and at the end of the line the statues cracked, shedding their stone skin to reveal the hollow, armored soldiers beneath. "They aren't ghosts," Kaelen whispered. "They are us, reprocessed." Elara looked away, tears streaming down her face. "My father," she choked out. "He might be down there." "If he is," Kara said gently, "he is gone. What walks out of that machine is only a shell filled with obedience." Kaelen turned from the window. The rage was building in him, a cold, hard knot. "We burn it," he said. "On our way out, we burn it all down." "With what?" Kara asked. "We have no explosives." Kaelen patted the goblin's leg. "We have an engineer. Even a broken one remembers how to break things." They reached the central elevator hub. It was a massive circular platform surrounded by control panels, but it was guarded. Two of the massive, hulking brute constructs, flesh and metal stitched together, stood by the lever. They held rivet guns the size of cannons. Kaelen pulled them back into the shadows. "I can't take two," he whispered. "Not with a sword." Elara stepped forward. "I can distract them." Kaelen grabbed her arm. "You're empty." "I have enough for a flicker," she said. "Just a ghost light." Elara stepped into the open. She raised her hand. A small orb of white light appeared, drifting toward the far side of the room. It bobbed and weaved like a fairy. The brutes turned, growling, tracking the light. They lumbered away from the controls. "Now!" Kaelen sprinted. He didn't go for the guards. He went for the panel. He slashed the hydraulic hose of the nearest rivet gun mount as he passed, spraying oil. The brutes roared, turning back. Kaelen slid across the floor, driving his sword into the knee joint of the first brute. The brute fell, its leg mechanism seized. The second brute raised its rivet gun, aiming at Kaelen. Thump, thump. Two massive rivets, glowing red-hot, smashed into the floor inches from Kaelen's head. He rolled, scrambling for cover behind a control console. "Tibbs!" he yelled. "Open the door!" He unstrapped the goblin and set him on the console. Tibbs looked at the buttons. So many buttons. He clapped his hands. He started pressing them, all of them, in a rhythm. Bop, bop, beep. The elevator didn't open. Instead, the floor of the platform began to rotate, then tilt, then steam vented from every pipe in the room. Tibbs had activated the emergency purge sequence. Sirens wailed. The standing brute lost its footing as the floor angle shifted. It slid past Kaelen, flailing, and fell off the edge of the platform into the darkness below. Kaelen grabbed Tibbs in the console railing. "Good job, buddy. A little too good." The platform leveled out with a bone-jarring slam. The elevator doors groaned open. Kaelen hauled everyone inside. It was a freight lift, a cage of heavy mesh. He slammed the gate shut and hit the lever for surface. The lift jerked and began to ascend. Slowly, too slowly. Below them, the Foundry was waking up. Alarms were screaming, and something was rising in the shaft to chase them. Something fast. Kaelen looked down through the mesh floor. A swarm of the Skystalkers was spiraling up the shaft, a tornado of wings and claws. "They're faster than the lift," Kara said, gripping her staff. "We must deter them." She slammed her staff on the metal floor. "Wall of iron!" The sides of the shaft began to ripple. Spikes of metal shot out from the walls below them, skewering the lead flyers. But there were hundreds. The swarm reformed, dodging the debris. "Elara," Kaelen said, "we need the bomb." Elara shook her head. "I'm empty, Kaelen. I'm barely keeping the seal closed." Kaelen looked at the chest plate. The blue light was a faint ember. He looked at the goblin. Tibbs was holding a grenade he had swiped from the brute's belt during the fight. He was trying to pull the pin with his teeth. "No, Tibbs." Kaelen grabbed the grenade. "Not in here." He looked at the swarm. He looked at the grenade. It was a concussion charge. Kaelen pulled the pin. "Kara, shield us!" The stone singer crouched, wrapping her cloak around Tibbs and Elara. Kaelen waited. He counted to 3. He dropped the grenade through the floor mesh. It fell into the center of the rising swarm. Boom! The explosion was contained by the shaft. The shockwave shot upward, hitting the bottom of the lift. The cage rocketed upward, thrown by the blast. Kaelen was slammed to the floor. The G-force was crushing. The lift flew past the intended stops, the brakes screaming, sparks showering like rain. It smashed through the safety interlocks at the top of the shaft. They burst out into the open air. The lift car flew 10 feet into the night sky, hung there for a weightless second, and then crashed down onto a snow-covered landing pad. It rolled, screeching metal tearing on stone, until it came to rest against a statue of a weeping angel. Kaelen kicked the deformed gate open. He fell out into the snow. It was cold, bitterly, wonderfully cold. He scooped up a handful of snow and pressed it to his burning face. He laughed, a broken, hysterical sound. "Surface," he gasped. "We made it." He helped Elara out. She shivered, the cold biting through her thin dress. Kaelen wrapped his cloak around her, though it was tattered. Kara emerged, her obsidian skin steaming in the cold air. They were on a high plateau. Below them, the clouds obscured the ash wastes. Ahead of them, looming against the stars, was the citadel of the High King. It was a fortress of white stone, built into the side of the mountain. It looked impregnable. It looked safe. Kaelen felt a surge of hope. "The King's Guard," he said, pointing to the banners fluttering on the ramparts. "They will have healers, engineers." They walked toward the gates. The snow was deep, trudging was difficult. But as they got closer, Kaelen slowed down. He squinted at the banners. They were the king's colors, blue and gold. But something was wrong. They weren't moving in the wind. They were stiff, frozen. "Wait," Kaelen said, holding out his arm. "No wind." He looked at the guards on the wall. They were standing perfectly still, too still. "It reached here," Elara whispered. "The silence. It's already here." Kaelen shook his head. "Impossible. We outran it. The train, the lift. We were faster." "Not faster than the signal," Kara said. "The crystal in Oakhaven was a transmitter. This is the receiver." They approached the main gate. It was open. Inside the courtyard, hundreds of soldiers stood in formation, halberds raised, eyes open, all turned to stone. Kaelen walked through the ranks of the frozen army. He recognized faces, captains he had drunk with, sergeants who had trained him. All gone, trapped in a single second of time. He reached the inner keep. The doors were blown inward, not by war, but by the same force that had hit Oakhaven. "The king," Kaelen muttered. "I have to see the king." He ran up the steps, slipping on the ice. They entered the throne room. It was vast, draped in shadows. At the far end, on the throne of frost, sat the High King. He was a giant of a man, clad in Orium plate. He was not stone. He was moving. Kaelen stopped, hope flaring. "My liege," he called out, dropping to one knee. "Courier Kaelen reporting from Oakhaven. The silence. We have the weapon." The High King stood up. He walked down the dais steps, but the sound of his footsteps was wrong. Clank, clank! He stepped into the moonlight. Kaelen gasped. The king's face was gone, replaced by a smooth, violet crystal mask. His armor was fused with his flesh. He wasn't a man anymore. He was a conduit, a puppet of the silence. There is no king, the entity spoke, its voice a chorus of 1,000 screams. There is only the echo. The king raised his hand. The stone soldiers in the courtyard outside began to crack. The stone fell away. The violet eyes ignited. The army was waking up, not as men, but as hollow knights. Kaelen stood up, drawing his battered sword. He looked at Elara, at Kara, at Tibbs. They were trapped in the heart of the enemy's stronghold. Run? Elara asked, her voice trembling. Kaelen shook his head, gripping the hilt until his knuckles turned white. No, we end it here, or we die here.